All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for watching these shows, Mystery Wire. We've had tremendous response with George Knapp. I'm Ron Futrell. We also have John Forrest producing these segments and Carlos Sampson directing them, flipping all the switches. Okay, we're going to... This is one I've wanted to do for a while, and you have graciously agreed to unplug, George Unplugged. Although I do find you're unplugged all the time. Like you just say what you think and what you believe.
I'm going to regret this, right?
Okay,
Ron?
but yes, but here's where we're going to start it out with, and I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine here on to almost 80 years ago, 1947. Roswell, New Mexico. These are questions that I want to ask, and we're going to have a way for viewers also to ask you questions, and we could submit them here and do more George Unplugged. Okay, Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. What do you believe happened there? I'll just leave it at that. What do you believe really happened there? Because we hear so many conflicting stories, and there's so much nonsense and truth, and separate fact from fiction there.
As is typical in UFO world, no one agrees on anything about Roswell or anything else. So there are disagreements about the exact date of the incident. There are disagreements. Was there one object that crashed or two? What was the cause of it? Where the materials all went? People don't agree on anything, including Roswell. But I think there is a legitimate phenomena that happened back then. The reason we had to dig into it, Roswell is in New Mexico, we report things here in Nevada, is because of Bob Lazar. We start looking at Lazar's story. He says we've got 9 flying discs, flying objects that are being taken apart, reverse engineered up there, and that they're from somewhere else. It's technology that's way beyond what we have. So we had to look into the possibility, are there historical traces of evidence where we've recovered these UFOs and stashed them away somewhere? And Roswell is sort of the heart of that mystery. So we went to Roswell. I met many of the key players who had been at the base at the time, including the public information officer for the Army Air Force. That base, the 509th Bomber Group, was the only nuclear-armed bomber group in the world. So, of course, it would be of interest to anyone who's checking out our military capabilities in 1947, 2 years after the end of World War II. So it was a key installation, and there had been UFO sightings over the installation. Something went down outside of Roswell on this ranch, and it crashed, and there was a half-a-mile-long stretch of debris. And the intelligence officer, Major Jesse Marcel, very bright guy, he's assigned to be the intel guy for this critical unit of the military, goes out and finds the wreckage and describes what it was like. It was very strange material, very light. You could crush it, and then it'd pop back like it was it's like something he had never seen before. He comes back into town with piles of this wreckage, and the U.S. Army Air Corps, that was before the Air Force existed, has an announcement that put out by Lieutenant Walter Hott, a guy I know, and says, hey, you know those stories you've been hearing about flying saucers? We've got one. We've got one that crashed. Now, you would think that Major Marcel, an intelligence officer, would know what a weather balloon looked like, but the next day, they have debris from a regular old weather balloon stretched out in the office of the commander, and they say, yeah, this is, sorry about that flying saucer story. It was really this weather balloon, which was ridiculous. Marcel knew it was ridiculous, went along with it at the time under orders, and then supposedly this weather balloon wreckage is sent on a special plane to Texas and then on to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which, why do you need to do that for a weather balloon? And of course it wasn't a weather balloon. The U.S. military is the source of the Roswell story. This wasn't made up by UFO nuts. It came from them. We've got a crashed flying saucer, and the debate has continued forever. But there are now enough witnesses all along the way who've been interviewed by the likes of Stan Friedman and Bill Moore and other historians who've really put their life into nailing this down. And they've got witnesses for every step of the way where that wreckage went. And it establishes the basis of an idea that crashes have occurred. They're craft from somewhere else. We don't understand how they operate, but we're reverse engineering them and trying to see if we can duplicate the technology. That is still underway today. Roswell was real. I've spoken to enough people with high security clearances who have direct access to information and evidence. It happened, and we've been lied about it by our government and our military ever since.
And it also showed us early on the disinformation that the government will do right off the bat here. Their reaction, not first reaction, but second reaction was disinformation. Let's get something else out. Were bodies supposedly were found in this wreckage as well.
Yeah. And when we went there in '89, this is the first time I went there, and we found some of the key witnesses. There was a guy who worked at the funeral parlor who confirmed that the U.S. Army Air Force requested youth-sized caskets. They need the small caskets so we get, like as if some school bus had gone off a cliff or something, but they needed those bodies, caskets for that size to put these alien bodies in. We talked to a number of people who said they've seen them. They saw the alien bodies. And the pilot who flew the wreckage to Texas and then on to Wright-Patterson, which even today is said to be the repository for this unusual material and craft, at least one of them, until Area 51 was created.
Okay, which leads us to Bob Lazar. We're going to talk. I got some questions about that when we return here to Mystery Wire. George Unplugged. Okay, before we jump into Bob Lazar here, I've got to now. This is George Unplugged. You mentioned something to me during the break here that I had never heard before, relative to Roswell, New Mexico, and the Russians. There's quite a distance, and we're talking almost 80 years ago. Well, but there's still a relationship.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons that I am convinced that Roswell was real is because the Russians investigated it as well. I made those 2 trips to Russia in the 90s, and one of the shocking things I learned is that Joseph Stalin personally ordered an investigation of what happened at Roswell. And the father of the Russian rocket program, the space program, was given the assignment, hey, use all of our special assets to find out what crashed out there. And this guy took a couple of weeks, came back and tells Stalin, based on information that he had acquired from Russian assets who were in New Mexico. And of course they had spies all over the place. Roswell, the 509th Bomber Group, Los Alamos National Lab, Sandia, White Sands, that was a testing ground for all our most sophisticated weaponry at the time. So there were all kinds of Russian spies in New Mexico in 1947. They reported back to Stalin, something crashed. It's not ours. It's not a Russian craft. It's not an American craft. It's from somewhere else. This Russian scientist goes back, tells Stalin exactly what I just described, and Stalin says, yeah, that's what I heard too. So the Russians knew that it was from somewhere else. They believed it, that it had crashed, and it's from outer space.
No, fascinating that it was independent. Yeah. Okay. A Bob Lazar question. I'm going to ask a question and probably answer it at the same time. But in 1989, you do this interview that surprised you on air here live on 8 News Now when he exposes that he's working out at S4 and he's worked on and seen alien aircraft out there. I'll ask the simple. It's fascinating to me that since that time we've heard a lot more stories that have verified what he said out there. Did you believe his story initially? When did you start believing this? You believe his story certainly that he worked on alien aircraft. When did you come to that conclusion?
It took a little while. You know, we had big questions. Bob Stoddall and I had gone up to meet Lazar a couple of days after that Dennis interview where he silhouetted had happened, and we put him through his paces. We spent a couple of hours asking him questions about his background, details about what he had seen up there at S4. We came out of that meeting and look at each other and go, wow, what if this is real? What if this is real and it's right here in our backyard? It could be the biggest story in history. We recognize, though, and Bob reiterated it, that there were risks for us as reporters and for our news station, its credibility, if we go off and report this stuff as fact without doing a thorough investigation. So he cut me loose, let me go work on this for many months. In the course of that, I got to know Bob really well. He was genuinely being messed with at the time because they knew it was him that was spilling these beans. And I know that people have doubts about him, but you had to be there for some of it. There's no way I can convey what that was really like, that period of time when they were threatening him. They were following us. They were following me. My phone was tapped. And basically, it ticked me off. I mean, it really made me mad. I knew that as just a lunkhead reporter in Las Vegas, that some of these questions about life in the universe were just above my pay grade, and I'm never going to figure out how to meet an alien or something. But as a reporter, you can follow a paper trail and try to find and document his background and the kinds of programs that we're discussing even now. So that was the challenge, and I really was, as much as anything, really angry. I realized I might not be able to understand the cosmic implications, but I could follow the paper trail and try to see if it could be documented. And I was ticked off that the public was being lied to, that it had been lied for 50, 60 years at that point, and being lied to even now. This cover-up is real, and I've seen it in so many different ways. The idea that there would be agents following him around, bugging our phones, breaking into his house and moving around the furniture, things like that, really ticked me off. And it made me convinced that somebody really was trying to keep this stuff secret. And the more I dug, the more evidence we had that there really has been a cover-up. The agencies that have been involved with it, the witnesses who've said that there are other crashes and other reverse engineering operations, not just up there at S4, Area 51. So the more we dug, the more real it became. And I recall being just confused by it because I'd done so many stories on mob stuff and scandals and politics and animal welfare, things that were well received, things that had a big impact back in those days. And people had accepted that they not essentially took my word for it, but they realized that I was doing due diligence in putting those stories on the line. As soon as I put this on the air, suddenly I've gone crazy. People said I was a nutball, and I couldn't understand it at the time, but I understand it now.
New docudrama out, S4 on Bob Lazar. What does it look like? What do you think of it? You're in it. What are your thoughts on it?
You know, at the time you and I are recording this, the film has not been publicly released, but I have seen it, and I think it's good. I mean, it did not start to be a film. It was going to be a sort of virtual reality experiment where Bob would describe what the inside of S4 and those hangars looked like, and then you could put on some goggles and see it. Well, you know, I saw the first renderings of that a couple of years ago, put on the goggles, and it was astounding. But then the producer of this project, decided to turn it into a film. It's terrific, and it delves into, it tells the basic story that we told, but they age regress Bob Lazar in this project. I wish I could do some of that myself.
We all do.
Technology available.
We all do.
And then they have some further documentation to buttress the story that he makes about the 9 hangars out there at S4. I'll let the public see that on their own without spoiling it. But I was impressed by it, and I think people should see it. It reminds us of how that story unfolded, started and based here at KLAS, and what's happened over the years.
We have about a minute left in this segment, but where's Bob now? What you can say of what is he up to? Where is he at now?
He lives in the Pacific Northwest. He lives in Oregon. He has a business, the same business he had when he lived here. It's called United Nuclear. He sells scientific equipment and materials. Has a good life. He's married. Has his wife is into horses. And as I've reported many times over the years, Bob would like to leave UFO world behind. He had to be dragged kicking and screaming into doing this documentary film project. But, you know, he's like a magpie. He's attracted by shiny objects, new technology.
There you go.
So when they showed him what they were going to do with this virtual reality concept, he went along with it.
There has to be a bit of him, Bob, that says, you know, it's sort of nice to have all these other stories come out about craft that we have, that Dr. James Lukatsky comes out with his stories of what he's seen, what he's been inside these aircraft, and that stories very similar to his story from 1989. That has to be gratifying to him to some degree.
To some degree. You know, I get asked the same thing. Do you feel vindicated now that all this other stuff has come out? And I didn't know I needed vindication. I had always done my best to tell the story accurately as possible. And Bob, the same way. I mean, he does not stay up to date on what's happening in UFO world. There's too much to keep up with anyway, and he's just as soon walk away from that topic and that world, because every time something like this new film comes out, all the old arguments get dredged up. He's a liar. He's a grifter. He's a con man. He's a criminal. All the rumors about things that he had supposedly done over his years get dragged up all again, and he doesn't want to hear it. I don't mind. I don't blame him for wanting to walk away from this, and I'm not surprised that he gets dragged back into it every once in a while by people like me.
Okay, yeah. When we come back, let's talk about how you separate fact from fiction. I want to find that out when we return to Mystery Wire. All right, George, since we've been working together on this, I've seen many of your emails, pictures, voicemails, stuff that you have forwarded to me that you get. How do you determine truth? In this day and age of AI now that's making it even more difficult, how do you determine somebody tells you a story, fantastical story, could be true, maybe not. How do you determine it?
It's tough. I mean, it is tough. Because I've been at it so long, I'm better at it, and I have a sense right off the bat if something is legit or not. In some cases, but people contact me every day. It's hard to keep up with all the emails and stuff, but you've seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
They send videos and photos. No one who reaches out to a reporter with what they think is a really great UFO video or something. And maybe it'd be worth $1 million to some TV show or something. No one wants to hear your UFO photo or your UFO video is a bird or an insect, or it's not legit, it's a reflection from something. Nobody wants to hear that. So I don't say that to people anymore, because when I have been honest with them and I recognize what it really is, they react poorly when you level with them and get angry about it. Then you get into a running argument, and I don't have time for it. So what I generally say is, look, I'm not an image analyst. I have no expertise whatsoever. So I suggest they submit it to MUFON or one of the UFO organizations like that and let them deliver the bad news. But I do know enough about the imagery to recognize what I've seen before. To begin with, number one, the videos that come from the U.S. government, from the U.S. military, that are leaked to people like me and Jeremy Corbell, like this, the Tic Tac and Gimbal and those kind of things, they've already been officially determined by our government, by our analysts. These are genuine UAP. We don't know what they are. And when those videos get to us, when we put them on the air, it's because the determination was made by people who are experts that we can confidently say that's a UAP. The ones that I get from regular citizens are where it gets tricky, because they do make mistakes, and you don't want to let them down or get into a big, long argument. But some of them really are truly intriguing, and I don't know how to explain what they are. So I will consult with a group of experts who are willing to do this behind the scenes for me, tell me what they think, and take their opinion. I have also dealt with, as you see, Ron, the emails that I get, some of them are pretty crazy. Just absolute crazy. You don't have to be a psychiatrist to notice that these people are kind of unhinged, the rants they go into. I don't try to spend a whole lot of time with those. There have been cases where people who seem a little bit off kilter still have interesting information. And I've spent a lot of time going out and meeting with them in dark alleys and going to their homes. There was one case when we started back in '89 where a Las Vegas guy who'd been in Air Force, had worked in the Air Force, spent his whole career there, sent me an image of what looked like a flying saucer shooting a beam down on an unspecified airbase. And it convinced me, hey, I better go see this guy. He says he's got a lot more material. He told me he communicates on a regular basis with aliens, and would I like to see his communication device? I said, yeah. I went out in his backyard. What I see is there's an old bird bath. On top of that is a rusted record rack, what you would used to stack your vinyl records in. And on top of that is an old headlight from an automobile. None of it's connected, but he says, yeah, that's what I use to get in touch with him all the time. And I realized, all right, he had an interesting photo, but this guy is not entirely connected himself. So you have to run down leads like that sometimes. Most people are not trying to scam us. They think they have something legit. I think their motives are honest and pure, but it turns out, 90 to 95% of all UFO cases, all UFO sightings, all UFO videos and evidence are explainable. If you dig into it enough, 95% is explainable. It's that other 5% that's interesting. We get fake documents that you can track the origins of it. You get fake witnesses who will say, I worked in this program, that program. you track down their credentials and find out that they're not true. So there are ways that you can follow a paper trail and determine whether somebody is being honest or not. I do know for a fact that there is a gigantic stockpile of UFO, UAP videos on government servers that the public has not been allowed to see. Now, we have shared information with Congress about where those things are. Please keep an eye on these before they disappear. And maybe some of that stuff will be coming out in the future because of the directive from President Trump and the interests of Congress.
Well, yeah, if you know where they're, let's expose
exactly
those.
where they are. Yeah.
Put those out there.
Yeah.
If you want to find them, call George. Somebody from the White House. No, I am making this. Call George. He'll lead you to them. You, James Lukatsky, I'm guessing, would be able to find them out pretty easily and say, here they are. Let's expose them. Put them out there. I'm sure you've had. Well, we're out of time on this one, but I'm sure you've had governments try to lead you the wrong direction too, to deceive you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Put stuff out there and
Absolutely.
see if George will fall for it, and we'll expose him as a fraud.
Yeah.
There we go.
Absolutely.
And no, that has to be difficult.
Ongoing.
A daunting task indeed. Okay. Here's what we want to do now. If you've got questions we want to do these George Unplugged segments occasionally, okay? Maybe more often than not. But on this YouTube page, put your questions there. I will monitor the questions, get some questions out there, and go through them and submit them, and we will put them out there for George and Ask George. You can do that here on this YouTube page. The other thing, too, is also if you have videos that are legitimate, go to 8newsnow.com/report-it. And we're going to start filtering through some of the stuff that we get. So we're asking for you to send us stuff that is legitimate. 8newsnow.com/report-it.
Yeah, we'll post this on our website, and we want to get feedback from the public. Maybe there's some experts out there who don't want their names known who would like to weigh in on what these images might really show. And we look forward to getting a lot of that stuff to come in, and we'll share it with the public.
All right. Thanks so much, George. Appreciate it.
Sure.
You okay with this? We do more of these? What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I'm expecting to get hit with personal questions here, too. You're opening up the door, Ron.
Sports questions?
Yeah, there you
go.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go there.
Yeah.
I'll go there with you sometime. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoy Mystery Wire. Bye for now.